Hey everyone, what's going on? Before I get started in this video, if you're new to the channel or new to the information that I'm going to present in this video, please go to the description of this video. I'll leave some links that will help you understand a lot more of what I'm talking about. This video is a follow-up of some of these other videos that I just recently had talked about, so it will make a lot more sense if you go back and watch some of these links first. But basically what I talk about on this channel is how the media, our sports leagues, our history is all scripted by this system called gematria. And that is the practice of coding numbers into words. And it is used every single day in our media stories. And they also use, I put it as themes. If you pay close attention to stories that are in the media, mainstream stories, they are a lot of times interrelated. And it might sound crazy, but just check out some of my other videos and you'll understand more of what I am talking about. So, a short recap of what I was talking about. I noticed this pattern in the media. I noticed that Corey Feldman has recently been in the news a lot because of the child molestation thing. And the other day we got the story about Wendy Williams fainting, and the main guest on her show that day was Jerry O'Connell, the fat kid in the movie Stand By Me. And then I also talked about with Kevin Spacey, with Harvey Weinstein actually. Harvey Weinstein, we got a story about Rose McGowan, who has an arrest warrant out, and she's saying it's because, of Harvey Weinstein and they're high up in Hollywood and whatever else. And she's one of the main people against Harvey Weinstein. And when I looked up her, I found out she was in this religion called the Children of God. And that also, I had documented a while back about how River Phoenix was also in this cult. And it's this weird thing where, River Phoenix said he lost his virginity at the age of 4, fitting for the Harvey Weinstein and all these sexual allegation stuff. Corey Feldman coming out saying the Hollywood sex ring. And I said the only person that seems to be missing out of all of these from the movie Stand By Me is Wil Wheaton. And I said possibly we're going to start seeing Wil Wheaton in the media. And the very next night I watched the new Big Bang Theory and Wil Wheaton just so happened to be on there. And of course he's been on there before, but it's interesting that I would just make this video. The last time that Wil Wheaton was on The Big Bang Theory was season 9, episode 17. And this new one that he's on, season 11, episode 6. So it's been a long time since he's been on The Big Bang Theory, and now he's randomly on The Big Bang Theory after I mentioned that Wil Wheaton was missing from these interrelated stories in the media. So moving along with the story, in this video right here, I also mentioned a few things that the movie Stand By Me reminds me of. I think of the song Lollipop and the train, right? They yell train. And I talked about how in 2015 there was a bunch of train symbolism. But I also went on to mention how maybe it's something to do with Kiefer Sutherland, because Kiefer Sutherland is also in this TV show called Touch. And in that show, his son basically can see the script of the world. His son can see how all of these things are interrelated, and that's what the whole show's about. Them going to certain events, either trying to stop them or help guide them along, to make the world better and make the way these interrelated events happen, make them work in a more positive way. Or at least that's what I get out of the show when I've watched it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, how all of these stories are interrelated and they're coded by numbers. And that's how this kid also, he uses a lot with numbers to understand how this world truly works. And, what are the odds? So I make this video, then I see Wil Wheaton, and then just on November 5th, all of a sudden we get this mass church shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas. Think about that. Kiefer Sutherland Springs, Texas. What I really find super interesting about this is, too, on November 1st, I got a phone call from Texas, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought, who knows, telemarketer or something. And then on November 2nd, the only phone call that I got was from San Antonio. And, of course, they even tell you in the mainstream article here, the first one that came out, it talked about how this was outside of San Antonio. And just 3 days before, I get a phone call from San Antonio, Texas. And what's super interesting about this phone call is that the day that I got this, I was sitting in the living room, and my girlfriend and her brother was in the living room, and she asked me who called me, and I said some number from San Antonio. And then I joked and I said it's probably where we're going to get the next big mass shooting or the next big story in the mainstream media. And then, of course, 3 days later, we get this biggest mass shooting in Texas at this church, supposedly at Sutherland Springs. After I just talked about Kiefer Sutherland is somebody to watch out for. There's something connected to Kiefer Sutherland, right? And the reason that it's so significant and the reason that I even said that was because just before the Las Vegas stuff, I had talked about the Jesuit anniversary like crazy and some big event that I thought was going to happen on or around the time of the Jesuit anniversary of September 27th. And on September 27th, I got a phone call from Nevada. And then the day before the Las Vegas shooting, somebody from Nevada, Las Vegas of all places, reached out to me and was telling me about the video that I made on them. It was the guy that was on The Price is Right who got the perfect showcase bid. And his name is Terry Neese. And he reached out to me and told me there's a bunch of stuff that I don't even know about, such as his niece went on the same show just a month after him, and she also got up on stage, and whatever, she won the showcase on a bid of $0 or $1. And they were sitting in the same seat. They both got up on stage on the third prize up for bid or whatever it says in here. And, I emailed this guy, gave him my phone number, everything else. He said he was gone on business and he would get a hold of me, and he's never got back to me. So who knows, possibly a good person, whatever else. I'm confused by it, but there's other people that have reached out to me before and the same thing happens. They say they're going to send me some information. There was one about the death of Brandon Bourbon, the Kansas football player, and he wrote me this big email and then never got back to me. He said he was going to send me all of the information that he had and then just never responded to it. So I don't really know what's going on, but feels like someone's cluing me in. Just before the Houston floods, I kept having a number from Houston call me as well. Even after the Houston flood, it was Houston. I kept getting these calls from Houston. Then I got the one from Nevada just before the Las Vegas thing. Never had a weird phone call at all on the whole month of October after that. And then November 1st, I get a phone call from Texas. And November 2nd, I get one from San Antonio, Texas. And then we get the shooting in San Antonio 3 days later. So in a second, I'm going to talk about why I think Kiefer Sutherland was so important and how it's connected to the JFK stuff that I was talking about with November 5th. And then on November 5th, we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting. But in my comments, Rita511 had sent me a link in regards to, this was on Fox News, after the Sutherland church shooting, right? There was a story about Will Wheaton angers people of faith with furious tweet of Paul Ryan. And basically what he said was that what did he say? That if prayers did anything, then these people would still be alive at this Sutherland Springs church, right? My point is, what are the odds that I bring up the movie Stand By Me and talk about how possibly we're going to see Will Wheaton in the mainstream media. Randomly, he's on The Big Bang Theory just after I talk about that. And then the story that I'm talking about is connected to Stand By Me. Will Wheaton makes the mainstream media in regards to the same story. What are the odds of that? There's just no way. All of these stories, they're interrelated. And if you pay enough attention and whatever else, you can figure out the types of stories that are come next, because that's just how it's worked forever. As long as I've noticed this, it just seems like they do themes like crazy. And if you understand gematria, you understand even more of why they're doing the certain themes and how these themes sync up. Because if you understand the numbers, you understand how these are also connected through that way. And I'll leave a link to Zenith of the Alpha's video, but he made a video because he really caught on to this just after watching my video. He was like, Sutherland Springs, Texas, and I had just talked about Kiefer Sutherland and everything and the movie Stand By Me. But he pointed out in his video that Richard Dreyfuss is the old Gordy whatever on the movie Stand By Me. He plays the adult version of the kid that Will Wheaton plays. And his son just came out and said that Kevin Spacey had sexually assaulted him or whatever on some movie or whatever. So interesting, that once again it's connected back to the movie Stand By Me, like I was talking about. And I also just made a video in regards to Kevin Spacey and whatever else. So just weird that these stories are interrelated. The media's coming up with things that I'm talking about, So I'll leave a link to his video. So in regards to Kiefer Sutherland and just Sutherland Springs, Texas, this happened on November 5th, which is a day that I've been saying, might be a significant day because of the JFK files being released. And it was 144 days after Donald Trump's birthday. JFK died on the first day of Sagittarius. Sagittarius equals 144. His brother died at 1:44 in the morning. Abraham Lincoln died on 14/4, like 144. It's this number that is connected to political assassination. JFK died 144 days after meeting the Pope in 1963. Donald Trump met the Pope on the 144th day this year, and it was even his 4th month and 4th day as being the president. If you write out 44, it equals 144. But anyway, in regards to Kiefer Sutherland, his dad is Donald. And think about Donald Trump, Donald Sutherland. And Donald Sutherland just so happens to be in the film JFK. Let's pull it up here. JFK film. Donald Sutherland played the character of X in this movie. Let's find it here. Donald Sutherland as X. And that's very interesting because in Sumerian gematria, which is just the alphabetic order, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, and then you multiply it by 6. So in Sumerian gematria, the letter X is 144. And so basically it's 24 times 6. That's how you get Sumerian. That's what I was trying to explain. But the letter X, 144, and he's in this movie JFK, right? And the letter X also equaling 24 because X is the 24th letter. It reminds me of Kiefer Sutherland because Kiefer Sutherland was in the TV show called 24. Let's find that here. He was in this TV show called 24 right here. And I documented around the Super Bowl last year that because they brought back this show, a spinoff of it called 24 Legacy. It aired after the Super Bowl 51 this year. And I talked about it because in the original 24 series, the former black president gets assassinated. And I was thinking about that in regards to Barack Obama and whatnot. Obama, he's not the president anymore, but there's still something really synced up to Obama. And it just makes me wonder in regards to this TV show and the former black president being assassinated. And there's been a lot of Lion King stuff in the media, if you paid attention lately too. The kid, J.D. McCrary or something, who's going to play Simba in this 2019 Lion King remake. And they even started some fake stuff about how he was going to be gay and whatever else. But we had Beyonce is going to be Nala. But this kid, J.D. McCrary, got his house ran into by a car, supposedly. Oh, what was it? Oh, the guy who played Benson, he also was the voice of Rafiki on The Lion King. So just interesting, some Lion King stuff coming up in the media. Obama joked that he was the Lion King, and the Lion King is inspired by Hell's Gate National Park that is located in Kenya, where Obama's dad is from and whatnot. So there's this big connection to Obama, the Lion King, and this show 24 with a former black president being assassinated. So possibly that's what all this JFK stuff was actually syncing up to, something to do with Obama, who's the 44th president. Remember, 44 equals 144. Donald Trump, though, is the 44th person to be the president. So I guess that's what I was thinking in regards to that. But that movie JFK is really significant to what I was talking about last year. Go back to this film here. The movie JFK stars Kevin Costner, and he was a big reason last year why I thought the Indians were going to play the Cubs in the World Series. And it was also because of this movie, because the character that he plays in this movie, his name is Jim Garrison, and Jim Garrison just so happened to be born in Denison, Iowa, which I used to work there for a long time. I live 19 miles away from this place, and this there was a big Native American theme. We had the death of Kyle Calloway, the Iowa football player. I think he died in Vail, Arizona. And the towns go Denison and then Vail, if you follow Highway 30, and in between there is Yellowsmoke National Park. And then the Colts owner bought Prince's Yellow Cloud guitar, and there was a bunch of stuff that synced up to the Native American stuff. Even the Dakota Access Pipeline stuff came out right before, it got really big right before the World Series, right? If you paid attention in the media, lots of Native American type stories in the media. And then we got the Cleveland Indians in the World Series. But we also had the death of one of the Native American guys that was in the movie Dances with Wolves that Kevin Costner's in. And then we got the death of W.P. Kinsella, who was the writer of the story that led up to the movie Field of Dreams, right? Connected to Iowa yet again, and Kevin Costner. And another thing that I noticed in regards to the Native American theme last year was the only two movies that I went to in the theaters were the Divergent series movie. I can't remember which one it is, but they go to Chicago in that movie, and that's what the big point of the movie is. It's all about Chicago. And the other movie that I watched was called The Darkness. And The Darkness is this movie where this kid steals the Anasazi Indian rocks and brings them back to his house, and it opens up a portal, and his house gets haunted and everything else. But the kid who steals them rocks in that movie just so happens to be Kiefer Sutherland's son on the TV show Touch. The kid who can see how everything is interrelated in the world. But it was all about, the Native American stuff and then Chicago. And that's why I thought the Cubs would play the Indians in the World Series. And then, of course, they did. And I made tons of videos talking about it. And I still have 2,000 subscribers, It doesn't really make any sense how you could predict something that crazy and still get no subscribers on YouTube. I know what I'm talking about is really complex, I guess. It's hard to organize this stuff because there's so much going on, so much to remember, and so much to follow. And that's why I make these videos in order to explain them. I wish I could do a better job, but it's mind-boggling to myself, let alone trying to explain it to somebody and, absolutely organize it in the best possible way. That's something I need to work on, I know, but I don't know how to do it any better. Before moving on, I'm going to show you the gematria and some stuff in regards to this story then of the Sutherland Springs shooting. But on November 2nd, I got that phone call from San Antonio. Last year on November 2nd, that was the day of Game 7 of the World Series when the Cubs, You know, it started raining, ending the drought from 1908, and then the Cubs beat the Indians in the World Series, the 112th World Series on 11/2. But last year, one of the big mainstream media stories on that day was these two cops that got killed by the Merle Hay Mall in Des Moines, Iowa, which was I used to live in Des Moines, Iowa, and I worked at Burger King, that equals 112 in gematria, and right across the street from where I worked was the 1908 Drought Bar, right? They were cluing me in that the Cubs were going to end the drought. And just think about the Iowa Cubs, Chicago Cubs, and I talked a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But just craziness, Right across the street from where I work, the 1908 Drought Bar. I work at a place that equals 112. The story happened on 11/2 of Game 7 of the World Series when it started raining and the Cubs ended their drought since the year 1908. So anyway, in the Sutherland Springs church shooting story, they said that it was a 26-year-old kid. He was 26 years old, and he also killed 26 people. And thinking about the TV show Touch, there's 26 episodes, and it was all about following the God sequence that began with the number 318 and ended with the number 318. And God in gematria equals 26. And there's 26 letters in the alphabet. So interesting that a 26-year-old kills 26 people in Sutherland Springs, Texas. And I mentioned Kiefer Sutherland because of the TV show Touch that has 26 episodes, and it is all about the God sequence, And if you write out 26-year-old in gematria then, that equals 85. The shooter's name, Devin Patrick Kelly, equals 85. He shot up the First Baptist Church. That equals 85. Even if you write out mass church shooting, it equals 85. And think about it. The mass church shooting, church, the mass, right? Catholic mass. I don't know if it's the same for the First Baptist Church, but in the Catholic Church, they call it mass. And then there's a mass church shooting. Also in regards to Obama, Obama's birthday is 8/4, right? 8/4. And if you write out the word Jesuit, it equals 84, something I've been talking about a whole lot this year. That's what the Las Vegas shooting, there was tons of stuff connected to the Jesuits and whatnot. Obama's birthday, 8/4. And this story has a lot of connections to the Jesuits, yet again. San Antonio, Texas equals 191, just like Society of Jesus. First Baptist Church equals 220, and in reverse 266. This sticks out in regards to the Jesuits because the Pope who created the Jesuits was the 220th Pope, and Pope Francis is the first Jesuit Pope, and he's the 266th Pope. So these have the connection to the beginning, and then Pope Francis, who is the first Jesuit Pope. Mass church shooting even equals 220 and 266. Pope Francis's 81st birthday, also 2 months, 20 days after the Jesuit anniversary this year. If you write out Donald John Trump in reverse, it equals 220 in gematria. And Donald Trump went to Fordham University, a Jesuit university. His birthday, 187 days before Pope Francis. If you write out Society of Jesus in reverse, it equals 187. And their birthdays 187 days apart. I also pointed out, if you write out Sutherland, oh, I spelled it wrong, so hold on. I just checked it. I wrote it in here wrong. If you spell it the right way, Sutherland Springs, it equals 80 and 224 like I talked about. Just like if you put the in front of it. The Society of Jesus. Something that I talked about with this 224. I talked about this previously. If you write out 80 in gematria, like Sutherland Springs, it equals 88. And there just has to be some connection to this. The other day we got the story at the Thornton Walmart, the Thornton, Colorado Walmart. That's also the place where they recently found the Triceratops skull that I documented about as well. You know, Colorado, the 38th state, and what is it? I can't even remember it all. Thornton, Colorado, I think it equals 163, which is the 38th prime number. Dinosaur equals 38. A bunch of stuff synced up to Colorado. That's why they found the dinosaur skulls in Thornton, Colorado. But then we got this shooting at Walmart in Colorado, and the last story that we got in San Antonio in the mainstream media was a story at Walmart, and it was these Mexicans who died in a tractor trailer, and that tractor trailer was from Shaler, Iowa, which is about an hour away from where I live, you know. So just interesting. Walmart equals 88, Mexicans 88, San Antonio, Texas, a small way, 88, and Sutherland Springs equals 80. If you write out 80, it equals 88, I pointed out. And I also pointed out the story about the tractor trailer in San Antonio. It came out 3 months and 13 days before this shooting at the Sutherland Springs Church. And that's important to Pope Francis and Donald Trump yet again. Pope Francis became the Pope on 3/13 of the year 2013, 313, and Trump's birthday is 3 months and 13 days before the Jesuit anniversary. I also always used to point out that if you write out 600, 3 score, and 6, a lot like 666, it equals 313 and also 133, a lot like the date of March 13th. It's either 313 or 13/3, you know. So interesting. 133 is also really important to other things. Government equals 133. Is it White House equals 133? Is president equals 133? You know, so just interesting, I guess, that the mark of the beast or whatever equals 133 in gematria as well. A lot like these significant events and significant places. Washington, D.C. equals 187 in gematria, just like the Society of Jesus, and George Washington equals 187. So, moving on here. Oh, I forgot to mention on the TV show 24 that Kiefer Sutherland is in. In the remake, they came back with this guy, and he's the main character in the spinoff now. And his name's Corey Hawkins. And in my comments, people keep telling me to watch this TV show right here. Stranger Things. I've never even heard of it, never seen it. But I noticed that it takes place in Hawkins, Indiana. And I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but when I think of Hawkins, I think of Robert Hawkins, who is the guy in the film Cloverfield. And just before that movie came out, we got the Westroads Mall shooting at Von Mauer in Omaha, Nebraska, that I live close to. And his name was also Robert Hawkins. Robert Hawkins, and then 44 days later, the movie Cloverfield came out that the main character's name was Robert Hawkins, and shooting equals 44. But that cover of that movie Cloverfield, the Cloverfield or whatever, it has the Statue of Liberty, reminding me of Wendy Williams falling and everything else. Possibly nothing, but just something to think about. The Statue of Liberty being important. Also, the guy who plays Robert Hawkins in the Cloverfield, he also portrays Robert Kennedy in some newer film called LBJ. I've never watched that film either. But, just think about that. JFK's brother, he plays LBJ. I have some more research to do. I was trying to watch the movie Flatliners the other night because Kiefer Sutherland was also well known for the original movie Flatliners, and then they just made the remake Flatliners. But I kept falling asleep when I was trying to watch that movie. Possibly there's some clues in these movies, because that's how a lot of this works. Also, last night I noticed that we also got a story of Lou Diamond Phillips being charged with a DUI in Texas, right? Sutherland Springs shooting in Texas. Lou Diamond Phillips, I know him mostly for the film Young Guns that also stars Kiefer Sutherland. And then he gets a DUI in Texas. The film Young Guns was even on my Dish Network the other night. I noticed, I was like, Young Guns is on, and I was like, weird, Kiefer Sutherland, And then I saw this story about Lou Diamond Phillips getting a DWI in Texas. I thought, once again, interrelated, pointing back to Kiefer Sutherland. And we just got the story of this Roy Halladay, baseball guy who died in Holiday, near Holiday, Florida. Roy Halladay, and his nickname was Doc Holliday, reminding us of Tombstone and the Wild West. I'm going to make a separate video on that, but, just makes me wonder, young guns thinking about the Wild West and whatnot. And now they're bringing up Doc Holliday, reminding us of the Wild West. Val Kilmer is also Doc Holliday in the movie Tombstone, and he went to high school with Kevin Spacey, who's been in the media a whole lot, and Val Kilmer's also the Batman who figures out Jim Carrey's puzzle that he uses gematria with, right? The Riddler uses gematria, and Val Kilmer is the Batman. And they're both connected to Aldous Huxley and the Doors of Perception or whatever. Jim Carrey recently been in the news for being weird and whatever because he's going to portray Terrence McKenna, which reminds us of the Doors of Perception. And Val Kilmer is Jim Morrison, right, from the Doors, that are named after the Doors of Perception. And Aldous Huxley, he died on the exact same day as JFK. Him and C.S. Lewis, they both died on 11/22/63, the same day that JFK died. So I know there's some connection that leads back to JFK once again, but who knows? Leaving it at that. Like I said, there's always more research to do. There's a whole bunch of films and TV shows that I want to try to watch and catch up on and see if there's any clues and whatnot. But hopefully that makes sense. Have a good one. Peace.